Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm Mac.
And Jose.
And we are Upper Country Farms. Welcome back to the farm. So last video we talked about the 7 items you should think about before ever getting into business.
Yeah.
Or ever starting a farm. These are things that are not necessarily farm related, but it was just, we wanted to get you started thinking in the process. This video is going to be about developing a business plan. And Jose, do we not do a ton of planning around here?
Mm-hmm.
I think farming is a lot of planning. The idea of a business plan is really to get you focused and thinking about the business. And if you need a loan or you're thinking of asking for funding from anybody, a business plan is an absolute must. So a lot of people think a business plan can be overwhelming.
Yep.
Yeah. Jose, have you ever written a business plan? No. Well, he has technically, because I've written business plans, but usually I'm the one doing the writing. He just helps me do the planning. Yeah. So a business plan really is just going to be an overall overview of the type of business you're thinking of setting up. So any type of business, you should be writing a business plan. How many sections are in a business plan will really depend on whether or not you're writing it just for yourself. If you're asking for funding, there will be additional parts of your business plan.
Yeah.
But I think even if you're starting a business and you're not asking for funding, but you want to know what the future is going to hold for you and your business, you want to write a business plan.
Yep.
All right, so let's start first by I'm going to briefly go over each of the sections in a business plan. Then there's going to be a couple we're going to go into pretty good depth on, and then a few of them I'm just going to skim over and talk very briefly about, because there's some parts of your business plan that are going to be much longer, much more fleshed out, and it will really depend on what type of business you're doing on which parts will be the most fleshed out. So the first part of a business plan is usually your executive summary. This will be something you write last, and it's an overall overview of the entire business plan. This is especially important if you're asking for funding, because this is going to give anybody who's looking at your business plan insights into what's included in the business plan. And within that first page, they can decide if it's something they're even interested in. So you want this to be really well written. But if you're not asking for funding and not sharing your business plan with anybody, the executive summary is probably not a necessity.
Yeah. The
second piece is going to be your business description. So all the basic information for your business. Then it'll be a market analysis where you go out and look at the market that you want to sell into. Then you're going to want to do your organizational and management setup. So how will your business be organized? Who's going to be in charge of what? If it's just you, obviously it's going to be you. But if you plan on doing any hiring, it'll talk about all those roles for all those different people. So after the management section, you're going to want to talk about your products and services. What are the products you're going to be selling, or are you offering services? What's that going to look like? Then your marketing plan. How are you going to bring in customers? Where are you going to advertise or market? Where, if you're going to farmers markets, how are you recruiting customers, getting them to your booth, those types of things.
Yep.
Then, in my opinion, the most important part of your business plan is the financial aspects.
Yeah.
What will be your income? What will be your expenses? We're going to talk about this one in pretty good depth because I think it's very important. And it's probably the first section you want to do, that and your market analysis. Because if you aren't going to be able to sell and you don't know how much money you're going to be making, you probably shouldn't be in business, is my thoughts on that. If you're doing a small market farm like we are, another section you're going to want to include that I would say most business plans won't have, but is an actual garden plan.
Yeah.
Because with farming, you have to know, especially with like a market farm, if you want to make $100,000 a year, how many carrots are you going to be selling?
Yeah.
How many beets do you need to sell? How much lettuce? If you have to figure out like how many carrots you're going to have to plant in order to make that amount of money. So a garden plan is very important. Then the last part of the business plan is going to be a funding request. So if you're asking for money from anybody, the funding request is going to lay out how much money you're asking for, how that money is going to be used. And so that if you're not asking for money, obviously this is going to be not as important piece of your business plan because you don't really need it. So where I really want to start with this business plan talk is your financial section. Because if you're thinking about starting a farm business, you need to start by breaking down the numbers. And I think for a lot of people, the numbers can be kind of scary. But you have to know if you're going to make enough from your farm to make a living, or are you going to need to have a second job while you get the farm up and running because you know the farm's not going to be bringing in money, or maybe you need to save up some money so that you have money set aside to start up the business. There's a lot of different ways. You could be asking people for money to help you through that. So you just need to decide how the money is coming in. So the financial section in your business plan is going to include your expenses, how much money you're going to be spending every year, when you want to buy things. And I think for your financial section, you really want to have it laid out for a couple of different years. It doesn't have to be as fleshed out, like the next year will be fleshed out pretty good. But then for years 2, 3, 4, and 5, I like to put out things that we're thinking of buying in the future. So our first season, we didn't have a 2-wheel tractor, but our goal was to purchase it by the second season because we could see how much labor that was going to save us. So you can be thinking about, like, this is the forecast or what I think is going to happen over the next 5 years and what kind of things we're going to be spending money on. Obviously, for the coming year, it'll be things, if you're doing a market farm, like seeds. It will be, like we just did an order from Johnny's, all of our trays that we're going to need to use, the pots that we use for sale at market because we do plant starts. You might need tables for market, tents for market. We do a lot of bins and totes for harvesting. This will all go into the expenses of the things you're going to need to buy. If you're running animals, feed, bedding, housing.
A lot of things.
Yes. Electricity, for example, this time of year is our heaviest use of electricity because we're often running heat lamps, all the lights for our germination room, heat in our germination room. So these are all things that the business plan will get you thinking through, so you don't come into it without any forethought. And you can really plan for things that maybe you won't foresee if you don't sit down and think about it. Now, the other thing will be your income. How much money do you need to bring in? Do you need to bring in $20,000, $50,000, $100,000? So you need to think about and break that down. If you need to make, and I'm just going to throw an example out there, if you need to make $100,000 a year, let's say, between your business expenses, and so the first section that we just talked about, expenses, will help you decide how much money the business itself needs to bring in. But on top of that, you need to decide how much you're going to need for your family. So what does your personal family budget look like? If your business is going to cost you $40,000 a year and your family's going to spend $60,000, your business needs to bring in $100,000. So on the income side, you need to say, how are we going to bring in that $100,000? If you think, birds hitting the window. Sorry, birds. If you think you're doing a CSA, let's say, and you want to sell, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the numbers off the top of my head. So 40 CSA memberships at $500, that would be $20,000 that you would bring in through your memberships. Then you can break down, if you're going to go to farmers markets, how much are you bringing in each week at the farmers market? So if your farmers market is 30 weeks and you think you'll bring in $2,000 a week at one farmers market, that would be, let's see, what did I just say? 30 weeks, $2,000. So $60,000 at one farmers market. Let's say you're doing a second smaller farmers market where you're bringing in another $10,000. What are we at? 60, 30. Well, I think that pretty much, no, we still need another $10,000. I'm not very good at head math, obviously. But you get the idea. Is you want to look at where is that income coming from. Now, if you think you're going to do 40 CSAs and you are going to do $2,000 a week at market, one of the things that's different for a small farm is now you have to break this down even further, and this is where the garden plan comes in. Because if you're going to bring in $2,000 a week at a farmer's market, how are you doing that?
Yeah.
Because you're selling things that are maybe worth $3, $4, $5. It takes a lot of $5 sales to make $2,000. I'm not even going to try to run that math in my head. I definitely would have that screwed up. But you need to look at how many carrots you're going to need to plant.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to sell 100 bunches of carrots at $5 each, that's going to be $5,000 for a week. And then maybe the same with salad. So that's 100 bags of salad mix at $5 will be another $500. So that's $1,000 of sales right there. But then you need to look at how many beds of salad mix does that mean you need to plant?
Yeah.
How many beds of carrots do you need to plant to get that number in sales? Because obviously, if you can only bring 30 bunches of carrots a week, you're not going to make enough money if your goal is to sell 100 bunches a week. So I think you got to get very clear, and you have to be really excited about planning if you're going to start a small farm. Okay, so we've talked about expenses, we've talked about income. The next thing is really to do an overall garden plan that will get you the amount of money that you think you're going to bring in. So for example, when we do our garden plan, I put down everything like how many rows we're going to plant, how much we expect each row to bring in, and then we total all of those out. So at the end of the year, I can say, wow, we're only planting enough to bring in $60,000. We've got to figure out how we're going to plant more. Yeah. Obviously, this is not going to be an exact science. Especially if it's your first year, you may not have really any clue. Yeah. But there are plenty of books out there that can tell you how much you need to plant, how much you'll probably make per bed. And then you can also go to the farmer's market and see what other farmers are selling their products for. I'm always amazed to hear about the price variances from, say, where we are here. And I think we pull in a pretty high price here in the Upper Peninsula compared to what I see at some other farmers markets. So we're a little bit luckier in that way that people are willing to spend a little bit more than I see in other areas of the country. So that's your income and your expenses, and then your garden plan. The next thing I really think you need to do is a market analysis, which means you have to go out and visit the farmers markets that you want to attend. We have a lot of different options for farmers markets up here. Marquette is obviously the biggest farmers market we have. That town is only 25,000 people though. So we don't have a huge market here in the UP, and we're competing against several other large farms or larger than us farms that have been doing it for years longer. Yeah. So when we first came up here, that first fall, I went around and looked at what our different farmers markets options were to see where we thought we would be selling. What are the other farms selling at the farmers market? How much do I think they're bringing in? I think I can look at a table and guesstimate like how many bags of salad mix they've got, how many bunches of carrots they're selling. And then I can start saying, okay, they're making maybe $2,000 a market. We probably can't do that our first year, but it's definitely a goal, let's say, for us to strive for if I think that's about what they're making. You also want to look like, are other farms doing CSAs? Are CSAs an option? Are you going to maybe look at restaurants? Do you want to sell to restaurants? Are you going to sell maybe to a cooperative grocery store or maybe some of the grocery stores in your area have a local section where they're selling local? Yeah. You want to go around and talk to the restaurants, talk to the grocery stores. Because if you go in the grocery store and they say, wow, we don't have room for another farmer right now, well, you know that sales outlet is not an option. The same with restaurants. You may have restaurants in your area that really don't sell local produce because for them it's so much easier maybe to go to one of the large suppliers rather than buying from multiple small farms. Yeah. So if you go in and talk to restaurants and they say, oh yes, we would love, that gives you the idea to know that you're going to be able to sell to some of these small local restaurants. So that's really your market analysis, is to get out there, put your boots on the ground, and figure out where and if you're going to be able to sell. Yeah. And actually, it can be a lot of fun talking to other farmers, talking to the local restaurants. and getting to know the community, especially if you're going to be new in that community. It can get your foot in the door at places. So I think those 3 areas are the most important parts when you're setting up a farm business plan. Those are the things that will help you decide what's possible, where you're going to make your money, how you're going to make it, and what your expenses are going to be trying to get there. I think if you put together those 3 pieces of the business plan, you're going to know whether or not you want to move forward or it's not going to work out for you. So for the rest of this video now, I'm just going to go through the business plan in order, and we'll talk just briefly about some of the other aspects that you need to think about when you're writing a business plan. So the first part of the business plan is going to be your company description. And this is an overall discussion of your business. So you want to talk about your vision and your mission. Like, what's the idea for your business? What are the values of your business? Then you want to look at, where is your farm going to be located? You know, a lot of times people are looking for land. So do you have an idea of where that land is that you might purchase? Do you already have it? How far away are your markets? Are you servicing markets that are 5 minutes away? Is it something that people can drive to or walk to? Are your markets an hour away? You know, we know farms in all of those areas, and it's the further away from your sales venues you are, the more difficult things are going to be for you in your business. Let's see. What kind of business are you going to be? Flower farm, meat? Are you doing meat, beef, poultry, those kind of things? Are you doing vegetables? Are you doing fruits, berries, those kind of things? You really want to know what it is that you're going to be selling and talk about it just a little bit here. This is just an overview. You know, we've done orchards, so but they're not selling yet. So we've talked about the fact that we're going to install orchards, but we're not yet selling from those orchards because the trees still need more time to get up and running. So this really just is a quick overview of the parts of your business. You're going to go more into depth on specific areas deeper into your business plan. So the next section then is your market analysis, which we've already talked about, your market analysis. Then you're going to want to look at your organizational and management setup. So this is, how is your organization going to operate? Are you going to be a for-profit? Are you going to be a not-for-profit? And what does the management team look like? If it's just you, then you'll write that in. For Jose and I, like, what are both of us in charge of? Who's responsible for what types of roles? If you're going to be hiring, this is where you will put descriptions into here for what each of your employees will be doing. What are they going to be responsible for? Are they, in their job description, are they out weeding and harvesting? Or are they running your irrigation systems? Are they running your greenhouse? Are they doing your seeding for the trays? This will be where you break all of that down. This can help you in the hiring process. This can help you understand your roles for leadership. So, for example, we did a video a few weeks back where we talked about being married and farming, and we talked about how clearly defined each of our roles is here at the farm. And I think it's very important, if you want to operate in a very nice manner with the other people in your business, you want to have clearly defined roles. So that's what this section of your business plan will be about. The next section is going to be your products and services. So what kind of products are you doing? Obviously for us, that's mixed vegetables. But we also offer a CSA, which is a service that we offer. So you want to lay out what are your products going to look like? What kind of vegetables will you be selling? Because it's important to understand, like, not everything grows here. Like, we can't sell avocados, which I wish we could. We're definitely not doing vanilla beans. But we have tomatoes and peppers and asparagus. We're trying to get some berries going. So to understand what your environment is. That is not how I want to say that. What your climate is for your area, whether or not you're going to be able to grow certain things. And then lay out your CSA. This would be a great place to talk about what is your CSA going to offer? How is it going to be different than other CSAs? Is it going to be the same?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a box? Is it a you choose? What's going to be included every week? How much will be included?
Yeah.
So this is a great place to talk about that in this section of the business plan. The next section is how are you going to market your business? Which, if you better get good at sales if you want to be running a small business, because small business really is all about sales.
Yeah.
If you can't talk about your business and encourage people to purchase from you, then it will be very difficult to make a living farming. I spend a lot of time managing our customers. So every January, every customer, every CSA member that we have gets an email from us talking about what they purchased the year before, what our new membership levels are going to be, which level I think they should be at. And this actually takes a lot longer than you would think for me to put all of these together, because I can't do just a form letter and send to everybody, because I have to look at everybody's accounts. And then, I want to put a personal note in there for everybody, because I want our customers to feel special and that we've paid attention to the things they're doing throughout the year. So you need to think about how you are going to get and retain your customers. Where are you going to market? Are you doing Facebook ads? Are you taking out ads in a local newspaper? Are there organizations in your area that can get information out about you? For instance, our farmers market in Marquette often advertises during CSA week. They will talk about all the different CSAs that the different farms offer, and try to get us some sales, which is really nice. We put a sign up at the beginning of every market. For the first 6 weeks, we put up a thing advertising our CSA, because we usually have slots left in the spring. But more importantly, we do a sign at the end of the season that talks about the next season and what it's going to offer. That is when we pick up the most emails to draw in customers for the next year, is at the end of the season. You'd think it would be at the beginning of the season, but it doesn't work that way. So this section really allows you to flesh out how you're going to bring in customers. And so take some time to look at what are some of the different options for this area, and how, where you expect to get, because it's not as easy as just saying, oh, well, I'm going to put an ad on Facebook. It doesn't work that way. It's also putting in, the time every year at the farmer's market. The more years we've been at the farmer's market, the bigger our sales get every year, because we have, more and more of a client base that knows, trusts, and likes us as farmers, and comes to our booth first, or comes to our booth as part of their circle of the farmer's market. So that's the marketing section of the business plan, is how are you getting out there and marketing your business. There's a lot of different ways to do that. You need to figure out what's going to work best for you. Then next is the financial plan, which we already talked about. And then also what I talked about is if you're doing a farm like we are, you want to have a garden plan in there to really flesh out how much you have to grow in order to make the kind of living you want to make. The last part of the business plan is going to be your funding request, which is just asking people for money. So this will flesh out, who are you asking for money? How much money are you asking for? What will you be doing with the money you're getting from somebody? Because they're going to want to know how you're spending their money. They also want to know how, if you're planning on paying this money back, how you're going to be paying it back. This is very important if you're trying to get a loan. This is important if you're asking family members for money, or maybe you're going in and asking investors to invest in your farm, which we've seen people go that route too. You better be really good at sales, though, if you're going to start asking people for funding, which I am not very good at that. I just have to go out and make a living. Whew! That's all the parts of a business plan.
Wow.
I know there's a lot. Anything you want to add or talk about?
No, I think you covered everything, but if you have any idea, we'll...
Yeah, if you think we missed anything, or you think there's something additional we should have talked about, we'd love to hear about that. Of course, this is not everything, and every different kind of farm is going to need, I mean, if you're a flower farm, what kind of flowers are you growing? How much are you able to sell your bouquets for? If you're selling meat, you know, how many beef cattle do you need to get to make a certain amount of money? Every type of business is going to be broken down in these farm plans or in the business plan a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So one last quick overview of all the parts of a business plan. You're going to have your executive summary, which is basically just the overall, maybe 2 paragraphs, what's entailed in the business plan. Get people excited about what you're doing. Then you're going to have your overall company description, your market analysis. You'll talk about your organizational and your management setup. You're going to cover your products and services. You're going to cover how you're going to market your business, how your financial section, which is going to be your expenses and your income. Then your farm plan, what's that going to look like, or your garden plan. And last but not least will be your request for funding.
Yeah.
So those are all the pieces of the business plan.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be overwhelming for you, because if you're excited about getting into business, this should really be something that you sit down and do. Take your time. You can Google the pieces to help figure out. You can ask somebody who's done a business plan before. It's just important that you think through the pieces of your business if you're going to go into business. Because the better setup you are on the front end, the easier it'll be as you progress. And the business plan will give you let you know if you're hitting your milestones or not. So if you're saying we're going to make $100,000 by year number 5 and you're only making $65,000 or $70,000, you're going to know you were missing that.
Yeah.
So then you can look at what can we do differently to get us to that $100,000 mark. Or you can say, wow, I thought we'd be a lot further. This business isn't right for us. The business plan just gives you the opportunity to see if you're hitting your goals, to see if the business is a viable is a viable option. So spend the time to do it and do it correctly. Yeah. So what videos do we maybe have coming up in the future?
I don't know, because we are close to the spring and
we got a lot of stuff coming up.
I think will be switched from the table to upside.
Because we have 3 more cold days, and then it looks like the weather is going to come up into our spring temperatures. It's not spring yet, but it's going to start feeling like spring.
Probably next video will be upside.
We'll continue to do our regular weekly, just us working here on the farm videos. And then we still have a few more of these style videos we want to do. We probably won't be here at the table, but I want to do a video about how, like, what's your kit for going to market? What are all the things you need to think about when you're going to go to a farmer's market? What do you need to bring? Because there's a lot of things you need to think about and put into your budget that maybe you don't even know about. So we're going to talk about that in a video. Then one Jose really wants to do is what are we doing direct seed? What are we doing in our transplanter? And what are we doing in soil blocks? Because I think it's good to see what other farms are doing. So we'll talk about that coming up. I think those are 2 of the big ones we have coming up here in the near future that we wanted to talk about.
All right.
Okay. All right. So if you liked this video, what should they do, Jose?
Thumbs up.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. If you are a small market farmer, I know for me, like, I am so hungry all the time for content because when we're out in the garden, we're listening to podcasts, we're watching YouTube videos. Jose and I love when some of the regular people we watch come out with a new video. We say, what are we doing tonight? We're going to sit, over dinner and watch this upcoming video. So if you're hungry for content, subscribe to this channel because, we're not necessarily meant for education, but you will learn a lot watching what we do around here. Yeah. Okay, I think that's good for today. Again, I'm Mac.
And Jose.
And we are Upper Country Farms.
Thank you.